Well, I really haven't posted or written much on Substack lately, or on YouTube for that matter. But this week, I filled out an appeal. During COVID, I lost my YouTube channel. I guess because I had RN, BSN, CCM behind my name and was a COVID dissenter. But YouTube reinstated my account, and I'm grateful. I said in my email to them, or my appeal, I said, well, Dr. Fauci got a pardon. Maybe you should pardon me. And they did. So we'll see how long that lasts. The powers that be are just that, but there's tons of social media out there for messaging to get out and narratives to be questioned. That's for sure. I don't really see much in the way of holding anybody accountable. And, the Jeffrey Epstein files were supposed to be released as well. Go figure. But I sat up the other night watching videos of all the nurses that are quitting the profession altogether. I think one estimate was about 40% of all nurses are going to leave the profession within the next 5 years. I know to be true that about 25% of all nurses leave the profession within the first 2 years. I've been at this at 27 years. I'll be 58 in March. And that's the average age that a nurse retires. So I hired on. I said I'd never go back bedside, but I hired on with a hospice organization, and that was in March. And here it is, 7, 8 months later. They've gone through 2 executive directors, several nurses, high turnover. My sister's a nurse. She left the profession years ago, and she told me, she says, even if you go somewhere else now, it's going to be the same thing. It always is. Years ago when I worked in the emergency room, we read an article in Nashville Parent, a parenting magazine, and it talked about how we sell our daughters short by not encouraging team sports. And it made a lot of sense. I work in a predominantly pink-collar profession, and God bless the women that are in there, because it's tough-ass fucking work. Excuse my language. But when it comes to managerial skills and team building and whatnot, it's very reflective. As children, when we're socialized on the playground, at recess, little boys break off into team-related sports. Kickball, dodgeball, baseball, football, whatever, roughhouse. Whereas little girls, they break off into groups. Some do jacks, some do jump rope, some do hair, some play in the sand, etc., etc., etc. Well, the article had talked about that, and it made perfect sense that later in life, and you see it. You see it on every nursing floor and in every unit. The girls can get cliquey, as girls can, period. Oh, no, she didn't. Oh, yes, she did, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've had doctors have to come out and talk to the whole nursing staff and say, listen, y'all got to quit this. We work as a team here. And it just carries over. It's carried over for years. A friend of mine, he's been a nurse 10 years longer than me, a guy nurse. He got fired from his job about 3 weeks ago, and he's been with those folks for a while. I was talking to him. He says the number one problem with nursing is women. Go figure. I don't want to sound like a sexist or whatnot, but it is what it is. It's a hard profession. And the backbiting and the lateral aggression and the passive-aggressive attitudes and whatnot, they always say nurses eat their own. Anybody that's worked in this field knows. So it's hard enough. But I'm watching all these videos of all these nurses that are quitting the profession. And I think I'm there. I think I'm just gonna go drive for Uber and Amazon and be done with it. I took this job with this group, helped them build this thing, and I've run up on another, what we call a corporate psychopath. And they're out there. ABC News did a great special down in Sydney, Australia on corporate psychopathy. But there's a lot of people in middle management that have no clinical experience whatsoever, but yet they're the glossy billboard, you'll love our hospital and clinic, come to our spa. And, nurses are on the front line, and we deal with very intense situations and family members and whatnot. And I've learned this in nursing, that if the patient's upset, it's the nurse's fault. If the family's upset, it's the nurse's fault. If the doctor's upset, it's the nurse's fault, etc. The nurses bear the brunt of all the complaints. And I'm in a situation now where I think this girl's going to can me based on some minor patient complaints in a very tense life and death hospice type scenarios. And instead of actually fielding the complaints and moving forward or whatnot, I think I'm dealing with a psychopath, and we're going to find out on Tuesday, just from her texting and whatnot, because I've dealt with them before. I had one nurse manager tell me, I was telling him he couldn't come down here and treat these nurses like union nurses or whatnot. And he looked at me and he says, there's plenty of them out there. And he walked out of the office. And that is, unfortunately, the attitude of so many in middle management. At a hospital, nurses are placed in the liability column. And I've often joked, and it's true, if a hospital administrator could run a hospital without nurses, they would do so in a heartbeat. And as we move forward with AI and these robots, I guarantee you're going to see that. So it's a sad situation. All I can tell you all is to stay healthy, because the system's broke. And I've often said it was the church that gave us the first hospitals. And when the nuns ran the hospitals, they were true hospitals. But when the private equity groups and the corporations took over, it just became a profit center, and they run the hospital for profit. You go in for a knee replacement, and they pay the hospital $15,000 for the knee replacement and for your care or your grandparents' care. Well, their profit comes by doing what? Cutting the staff. I've been at this for 27 years, and when I first started nursing, the big push was to refer to patients as not patients, but clients. And it was that whole corporate mindset of capturing that healthcare dollar. And once they captured that dollar, they fired the phlebotomists, they fired the unit secretaries, they worked the nurses short. Back when I started, you had 3 8-hour shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. And nurses weren't as burned out. Now they work them 12 hours, some 15 hours, and it's incredibly hard. I did see where Joint Commission, one of my colleagues pointed out that Joint Commission in 2026 is coming down on hospitals for proper staffing. Will there be any mandatory like there is in unionized states? I doubt that. And I'm sure that the suits are going to come back and, try to push back. They always do. And it really affects patients' care for sure. It definitely affects the nurses with so many of them quitting. And that's what's so sad about the whole industry at this point as far as healthcare and hospitals. Anyway, I'll post this on YouTube and Substack, and we'll go from there. If you like, click the bell and share and all that neat stuff. But peace be with you. Stay healthy.